In this lesson, we're going to look at the standard operations that you perform with pointers. The first of those is to dereference the pointer and display the value underlying the memory address the pointer is pointing to. So we do that by first creating a variable and assigning it a value. Then we create a pointer to that variable and assign it the address of num. So pointer pnum is assigned the address of num. And then we'll display the undereferenced pointer followed by the dereferenced pointer. So we should see the memory address first and then the value 64 that underlies that. And that's what we see. Another thing we can do with pointers is assign a new value to the object being pointed at by putting a dereferenced pointer on the left-hand side of an assignment statement. So here we're going to assign dereferenced pnum the value 65. And then we'll display the dereferenced pointer as well as the variable that it's pointing to, and they should both be equal to 65, which they are. So we can not only display values using a dereferenced pointer, we can also modify values using a dereferenced pointer as well. Now let's look at how pointers and references compare to each other. So what I'm going to do first here is comment out this code so we can kind of start over again. First, let's create two variables, num1 and num2, assign them 64 and 65. Then create a pointer to num1, assign it the address of num1, and then create a pointer pnum2 and assign it the address of num2. Let's write out the value of num1. Oh, we left out the actual variable value right here. And the value for num2. Then write out the dereferenced pointer value, so pnum1 right here, star pnum1 indel, followed by the dereferenced value for pnum2, star pnum2. And let's build and run that program. So num1 is 64, num2 is 65, dereferenced pnum1 is 64, and dereferenced pnum2 is 65. Now, let's assign pnum1 the pointer pnum2, and let's repeat this operation. Control C, Control V. Oh, I forgot to close the earlier program. Close that. Now build and run. Alright, so notice that when we reassign the pointers, now pnum1 and pnum2 are pointing to the same underlying value. Now, let's do the same sort of operation with references instead of with pointers. So what I'm going to do is we're going to comment out this code. So we'll just drag the close comment down to here. Create the variables again. They're short, so I'll just retype it. Now we're going to create reference objects. rnum1 equals num1. And then int reference rnum2 equals num2. Now let's write those out. In this case, I will copy and paste a little bit easier. I just change the pointers to references. So Control C, Control V. And then ampersand rnum2. Change that to rnum1 and rnum2. Build and run the program. And we see exactly what we expect to see. Now, let's assign the rnum1 reference rnum2, and then repeat this series of cout statements. Build and run the program. And notice that right here, now num1 has the underlying value 65. That's because we actually changed the underlying value when we used reference objects. So you have to be very careful using reference objects. We've learned that way back in the function chapter with swap, but now this verifies that it's certainly the case. So there you see the difference between how pointers work and how references work. In my next lesson, we're going to talk about the relationship between pointers and arrays.